This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Glenn Edvardsen, the CEO of United European Car Carriers, to discuss UECC's latest new builds, its third LNG battery hybrid PCTC. Glenn, to start, I'm sure that many of our viewers know the UECC name, but can you give a by the numbers overview of the company using the metrics of your choice?
Thanks, Greg, for the introduction there, and pleasure being here. And I certainly hope many knows about UECC. Otherwise, that's our intention, huh? No, UECC, the letters itself obviously says, well, UECC stands for United European Car Carrier. I think that explains a lot already, that we are typically trading in Europe. So strictly Europe, that's our trading area, and but we are a pan-European trading. So we are trading all the way up to the Baltic, to as far east as Turkey, and even down to North Africa. So on the northern part, obviously. So we have we operate give and take 17, 18 vessels through the year. We operate that many vessels, but we own UECC owned vessels is only 9. Actually, at this point in time, as we speak, 6, because we are expecting 3 new builds very shortly. So at this point in time, we own 6 vessels, but we're operating about 17, 18 vessels in total, ranging from 5,000 cars to down to 1,000 cars. So that gives us a lot of flexibility. We are serving almost every corner of the Europe and in the European countries and ports. We are 282 people employed. Main office is in Oslo, in the middle of Oslo, and 282 people, mostly, of course, on the vessels. We are give and take 100 people on the shoreside organization. We also have offices in Spain, commercial office in Spain. But besides transporting cars, I think it's worth mentioning that we also lift quite a lot of break bulk as well as high and heavy. We are quite big on that. We lift more than 300,000 tons of break bulk per year. And we also have quite a big number of high and heavy that we are transporting across in Europe. So it's not only strictly cars. And all our vessels are built for transporting high and heavy. So with strengthened decks, ramps, and so forth. So it's very flexible vessels. We're very proud of.
UECC obviously recently made the news with the keel laying for its third LNG battery hybrid PCTC. Can you give an overview of this series of vessels as well as the typical or planned operating routes?
Yeah, just one more info, Craig. I think it's worth mentioning that our ambitions is to be the leading provider of sustainable short sea operation. So that's important. And with that, I think it's your question is very appropriate. Yes, we ordered 3 new vessels. The first one to be delivered later on this year in October, and the next 2 in next year, January and summer next year. And as you know, we ordered 2 LNG vessels from. We have 2 LNG vessels from before. We took delivery of them back in 2016. But really the decision to build these vessels was taken way back in 2013-14 for delivery in 2016. This time around, we see that we know that the future is not the old conventional vessels if we want to be in the game here. And we have we are serious about it, so we know that we need to phase out these conventional vessels and enjoy or going on a path with more sustainable vessels, obviously with reduced emission as the number one priority here. These are also LNG, but I think it's, I like to point out that it's dual fuel. It's not LNG, strictly LNG, it's dual fuel, meaning we have the flexibility here. Great flexibility to burn a lot of other options also. So we're not locked in an LNG, because I can tell you right now that we believe that LNG will be the future fuel. Not at all. We think there will come something better along at some point. But at this point in time is the most environmental friendly fuel that are in the market. So we're using that until we see something better come along, and I'm sure we will also be able to burn that. So we are, but in the meantime, we're not sitting back and relax and say we burn LNG. We are looking at every options that are out there. So, if synthetic oil becomes tomorrow or comes on tomorrow and say this is a great oil, yeah, sure, we are most likely able to burn that as well, because we have this dual fuel flexibility. But we said LNG, yes, we think we need to take this a step further. So this time around, when we built these three vessels, newest vessels here, we also introduced the battery element, which we think is extremely important. And with the battery element, I just want to make that very clear, because people can misunderstand that a little bit. It's not like we are able to sail on battery alone. And that was not the intentional purpose. Then probably the battery package will be bigger than the vessel. So, but we are able to reduce the emission even more than when only running on LNG.
As you pointed out several times, I think flexibility is the key word moving forward, particularly as we look towards 2050. Can you give some more specifics on the hybrid power plant chosen, with insights on the anticipated greenhouse gas reductions expected versus a traditional diesel-only powered vessel?
Yeah, I think, it should, I hope, is widely known that the greenhouse gas reduction you achieve of up to 23% is achievable from LNG, up to 23% on the LNG, depending on the marine technology applied, of course. But there are studies saying that 25. But with the battery element on top of that, we are even able to reduce, a few more percent on that. And that was the whole idea when we introduced the battery, to reduce that even further. So we kind of squeezed a little bit more out of it. And I think it's fair to say, it's all in all, it's not only about decarbonization these days, because that's the CO2 I mentioned there, not the 23%, or maybe let's say 28%. We know that the SOx and the NOx in particular matters is also very important. And these are down to almost zero. So that's quite an achievement itself, I believe. Just a couple of years ago, that was a lot of focus on all of them, but these last, I would say the last year in particular, 2020, it was a lot about decarbonization. We can't forget how much the LNG is also reducing the SOx and NOx in particular matters.
And I know just from many of these similar type conversations amongst ship owners that the choice is not clear or easy. You've already discussed the rationale behind the LNG, and obviously you are prepared for future fuels as well. But with all of the new and emerging propulsion and emission reduction options, can you give the compelling rationale behind the solution that was chosen for these three ships?
Yeah, it goes back to the same as when we when we decided to go for dual fuel on the two other vessels we built a few years ago. LNG is a proven, fully compliant, and immediately viable solution to reduce shipping greenhouse gas emission. And I think our strategy is not sit back and wait till the perfect solution comes along. I think we need to take action now. And again, that was the same philosophy back in 2013, 14, and see where we are. I mean, LNG is probably a lot more is a much more used solution now than it was back then, because we were the first, basically the first in the world on the bigger ships to apply that technology. And so who knows when is the perfect solution coming along? I think the name of the game here, it's not to sit back and wait for the perfect solution. Let's do what we can do now. And with the dual fuel is certainly you kind of hedging yourself, because that opens up for a lot of more solutions. So as you said, flexibility really is the name of the game, and that's what we have by choosing LNG. In addition to the regulatory regime, we genuinely wanted to do this. We are owned by NYK Line, Nippon Yusen Kaisa, one of the biggest shipping companies in the world. And they have the NYK as well as Wallenius Line, which owns the other 50%, 50-50 NYK and Wallenius lines. Both these companies, I would say, this is in their DNA, environmental sustainability. So it was greatly backed up by them, of course. So that was made it even more easy to choose it.
As the shipyard in China closes in on finishing that first vessel for delivery, as you said, later this year, can you share any lessons learned from the experience on that first vessel that will be applied to the second and third vessels?
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have very many lessons learned at this point in time, but that doesn't mean it will not be. That could easily be so. But at this point, I think because it's rather new for them, and it's new, like new technology and so forth, and they're excited about having the opportunity to apply this technology. What's probably the biggest challenge with the technology here is what we call the engine management system, which is actually going to control and optimize all the different parts with the LNG, with the battery pack, and so forth. So that's going to be the challenge here. We have a Norwegian company, Kongsberg, heavily involved in setting up that engine management system. That's the really key here. But in terms of what we've learned here, good or bad, we don't really have anything that I can mention at this point, because so far things are going quite well. And there are no surprises. Obviously, we were extremely prepared. We have spent a lot of time, all down to very, very details, looking at the specification. So it's a very, very well thought of this specification.
So Glenn, can you put in monetary terms the additional investment that is needed to build a ship with this type of propulsion and propulsion management system versus a ship that is just with traditional diesel power?
Yeah, but I think a traditional ship with diesel power, for a few years ago, they were all saying, yeah, but the LNG plant is so expensive and hard to justify, and it's such a big add-on cost. Yes, it is an add-on cost, but I have to say, in order to meet all, and maybe also exceed, but at least to meet all the new regulatory requirements out there, such as the SOx and NOx Tier 3, for instance, and with the SOx, replaced or adding a scrubber and so forth. When you take all this into consideration to also achieve the same sort of the emission standard as you have with the LNG, we are not very far off today's regular conventional vessel. But if I was to answer your question, it all depends on the size of the vessel, because the LNG plant itself has a lot to do with it. But yeah, I would say for this vessel, we easily talk about between $6 to $7 million. But as I said, if we were to go out and order a conventional vessel, yes, and compare it to this, we like to have Tier 3, obviously, because that becomes a requirement in the trading area we will trade. And when you take the SOx, you need obviously a technology to remove that to the required level. So with all these additional technology you need to apply to a conventional vessel, you kind of add up. You basically ending up with almost the same, because that's also costly. But that's only for new vessels, of course. If you compare a vessel, building LNG today with an older vessel which wasn't required to have this technology or this the tier 3 and so forth, then obviously I think we easily talk about $6-7 million.
Actually, that's a perfect lead to my next point, because I noted with interest in the press release regarding the keel lane for the third vessel. You mentioned that this is not just good for the environment, but it's a business imperative. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think it speaks for itself. It's a business imperative because, I'm not sure, but I think there's not many years before they're all, basically, they need to show each, the OEM, the car makers, the logistic chain here also is very important. And they need to show that, not only producing cars where they, focus on decarbonization, but also in the logistics chain. And we need to be able to provide that. There will be a requirement out there. The various customers will have a requirement saying that, hey, listen, we can only do business with if you can meet these and these goals. So I think that's not only related to shipping, that's in many, in many businesses, the logistic chain, your activities need to be, that they are scrutinized to see, what's there for them, So I'm 100% sure this will be you have to have this in your I would say as a business, you need to provide, to offer that to the customers, that you can reduce the emission.
What do you consider to be the greatest challenge for UECC in this decarbonization path?
Yeah, well, risk probably. When I get the question, people ask me, since you're talking about risk, when people ask me back in 2014, 13, what, did you see to build the LNG vessel at a time as a big risk? But quite frankly, not at all. We looked at it as a great advantage. So that was for us, that was an opportunity to have a very competitive advantage. We were quite sure what direction we needed to go and what direction the world was heading. Put it this way, at least we thought we were sure that that was our ID. No, the challenge is, I would say, money talks. We know that, and with introducing, these great environmental sustainable vessels, there will always be an add-on cost. And of course, when we go out and we offer rates for tenders and so forth, we hope that people consider the environmental aspects, not only the cost alone, because we need that. Because if they don't, obviously, I think eventually they will have to, but longer they drag their feet on that and embark on that journey, towards zero emission, put it this way, which most of us have that goal, zero emission. So I think that is, again, I wouldn't call it a risk really. It is just frustrating. We like them to embark. We have the great opportunity here to offer them a great product, but they, of course, it doesn't come for free. They need to pay, but just a little bit more. Because I think the rates needs to be sustainable. We can't just build a technology using a fuel that is so costly, that anybody can't afford it. That's not the intention here. So in terms of risk, yeah, I think the answer is that the greatest risk is that we see there will be very, slow moving and waiting for the perfect solution to come along, and not appreciate the fact that they can still achieve a great reduction in emission. And quite frankly, I don't understand why they can't, jump on that journey now.
That question is for ship owners watching this and mulling their options. What is your one best piece of advice?
Don't sit back and wait for the perfect solution to come along. There are viable technology. There are opportunities out there, but I think, I honestly speaking, I think there is a lot of ship owners that are planning to build vessels, but they're not doing it and using the argument of waiting the perfect solution to come along. So don't sit back and wait. Jump on it.
I think that's perhaps good advice for several things in life. So Glenn, again, I truly appreciate your time. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
All right.
Likewise.
All right.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.